Hello everybody and welcome to a Pot Limit Omaha session review from a session I've just played on Unibet. I've tried to capture as many of the big pots as I could. Some of them, most of them probably going to be standard coolers, but we're just going to take a look back through them anyway. Hopefully it'll be entertaining and I'll maybe pick up some tips from some good PLO players who may come across it, or maybe pass on some tips to some PLO players that are even worse than me that might come across it. So we have the first hand here. We didn't quite catch it in time because we had a bit of computer crash, but this player was raised. This player's 3-bet. This player's called. We've 3-bet down here with the King, Queen, 9. And then we're going to go from there. Another fold, and then 2 calls from the guys who were already in. We flop a top pair. We still have an over pair. We have a good shot straight draw. And my thoughts on this are pretty much just, at this point we've got an SPR of 2 on effective stack sizes. We have an over pair, we have a top pair, so we have some 2 pair outs too if we need them. We have a good shot, so, and a backdoor flush draw. So my thoughts here were just pot and whatever, not fold. I think they were just pot and not fold, certainly a bit big anyway. So which is what we did. And then obviously right now we're well committed, so we just jam our last €9. Our opponent calls with the pretty big straight draw, pretty damn big draw. I mean, I think his call pre-flop's fine. I think he's open from under the gun is okay. I think it is. It could be wrong. Maybe it's on the slightly loose side, but I'm sure it's completely fine. I think his defend is fine. I think if I was him, I would just check raise the flop. I think I wouldn't just check call twice. I mean, I don't think once I pot it, I don't think he's getting any fold equity, but I still think if I was him, I would have just check shoved the flop rather than like check call, but whatever. And he didn't get there, and we dragged the pot. Here's the second hand. I may remember them when I see them, but I don't remember them in like any particular order. So we have double suited kings. We elected to squeeze again. And then this player, who was kind of a thorn in our side all night, he was bad, this player. Without any question, this guy was bad. He was playing lots of pots. To be fair, had this hand happen later in the session, I would have maybe folded it pre-flop. Maybe, because he didn't do an awful lot of 3-bet. He did a lot of limp calling and then just being like bad aggro post-flop. He's in a absolute ton of pots, but he wasn't super aggro pre, so if I'd had this information later in the session, I may have played it differently. I might not have done. I might still have said, fuck you, let's go. We've got double suited kings, but we got it all in. Unsurprisingly, he had the aces and he had one of our kings, and then he just flopped us just about dead. In fact, he flopped us completely dead, apart from running quads. Next hand, we have the Ace King 10-8, which I can get on board with either 3-betting or calling here. I don't remember what I did, so let's think about it now. In like when I got more time to think about what I'd like to see me do. I think we have hands that are pretty well connected here. We got a lot of high cards pretty well connected. We haven't got a pair yet. I don't like the dangler too much, but for the min raise, do we really want to go multi-way here, or do I try and isolate? I'd like to see me 3-bet. I don't know what I'd do, but I'd like to see me 3-bet again here, which I do. We pick up a cold caller in the small blind, and I tilt east. He calls, and we flop a top pair. I remember this hand now. This guy just like donks for as much as he can. This guy folds. Top pair, top kicker with some with a backdoor straight draw. He's a gut shot even, with a gut shot straight draw. I'm just not going to fold, given that we've got very little behind. So we get it all in. This player turns up with a completely bonkers hand. I mean, he should just fold it pre, of course. I have no idea what his donk is all about. And he got there, which is amusing. I guess there's not much to say about it, it's just a random bad beat. But as we're just chatting, some of the interesting or like bigger parts of the session, it's just found its way in there. It's not a whine, it's not a mourn, it's, I won't say it's standard PLO, but this kind of nonsense happens a lot. Bad players doing crazy things and getting lucky. It's just one of those hands. It's when we open the 6, 7, 8, 9 double suited under the gun, which again I'm pretty sure is fine. We get called. I remember this hand as well now. He checks. We have top 2 pairs and kind of not a very strong straight draw, I guess. But I still think it's worth betting our hand. He check raises us. With us having like 7, 8, in my head I was thinking, well, we block sets really hard here. He could have some better straight draws than us, like 10, 9, jack, something like that, or some kind of wrap, which I guess he could have very easily. And I'm not sure. I think I might have overplayed this. I'm not entirely sure. In fact, if I could have this spot again, I think I would probably just call. But instead, I did what I commented on the other video the other day about. I think sometimes some weak Omaha players overplay like marginal made hands and marginal draws. I think I've done exactly that here. I think we've got a marginal made hand with our top 2. We've got a marginal draw with our open ender. And I think I've just put too much money in the pot here. Anyways, we raise, he jams, we obviously call it off. He had the set, bottom set, which I'm not sure about his play either, to be fair. I think his play is pretty ambitious. Getting it in on with bottom set on this board, the very best. I mean, I don't know what his equity is going to look like. I'm not that good at like figuring out like equities in PLO like in game when I'm thinking, because it's hard to work. I struggle figuring out how much equity the side cards had, etc. But his side cards had 0 equity here. He's basically just got bottom set. He doesn't have any runner outs or anything like that. And I think he's overplayed it. I think I've overplayed it. I just think this is 2 guys just overplaying their hands. And he held. Again, we have double suited kings. Soljanov, who seemed like a weakish regular to me. Again, we put the squeeze in, which I think is fine. I remember this one. This is more of a, like what to do now. This is why I marked this hand. We've kind of flopped weirdly here. In my opinion, it's weird anyway. Do we see bet this bob? I mean, if we check folding? Do we check jam? I don't think if we could check jam if someone like pots it or something. I don't think we're ever making them fold if we check jam, so we don't have fold equity. Can we just see bet here and just like do a very good job of repping aces, because you know we're the most likely person to have aces, so we have a decent amount of fold equity maybe. But we block ace king really hard, so if he does have if either opponents have an ace, it's more likely to be like an ace jack, ace queen. But they could have flopped 2 pairs. Who knows what? Got a bit lost. Didn't really know what the fuck to do, to be honest with you. So I decided just to bet small, see what happened. I didn't even know what I was going to do if I got raised here. I probably would have folded. I don't know. I think there's a good chance I would have folded if we got raised. I didn't really know what I was doing, to be completely honest with you. My opponent just called, which made me think he's probably just in weak ace territory here. I think if he had 2 pairs in that board, or 2 pair plus, I think he would have raised. If he's got a flush draw, then good. When we got that flush draw crushed, so long as he doesn't have an ace with it. If he had an ace and a flush draw, maybe he would have raised 2. Turns out this guy was quite the nut peddler at the end of the session. He's another like weak, tightish regular. Didn't really know what to do on the turn, so when I'm not sure what to do, I just decided to just basically commit myself. And fortunately, our opponent folded, and that was one hand. That was the hand of the session where I kind of thought, I've got a fucking clue what I'm doing here. I'm literally just mashing buttons. Here we are again, with pretty mediocre hand, I guess, but from the button it's plenty playable. We get 3-bet by the stud. And normally I would just fold this hand to a single 3-bet, but when another guy comes along, irrespective of how weak tight he is, I just think we're getting too good odds not to call now. I think we just need to see a flop. We're going to put like 195 into 645. Presuming we have plenty enough equity with this, but who knows? So I did call, and again I thought one of those marginalish type hands where we kind of got that top pair, backdoor flush draw, shitty open ender. He leads out for pot. At this point I just put him on the overpair. I just thought he's got aces. We probably have good equity against aces. As long as yellow and theft doesn't come along, I'm just going to jam. I just put him on aces right here. Nothing, pretty much nothing else. Aces or kings maybe. That was my thought process. And just thought he's probably not folding it. We've probably got a ton of equity against it. Let's go. Let's gamble. He called. And he had some completely random. I don't understand his pot C, but I certainly don't understand his. Well, yeah, I guess sorry, ignore me now. Just he's got the jack deuce, so he's flopped 2 pairs. So yeah, I get it now. I didn't get it at the time. I just watching it back now because at the time I thought, wow, he's really spewed there. But he hasn't. He's obviously flopped 2 pairs, so whatever. And again, we did not win the pot. This was a fun hand. This LFC guy is going to min raise here, and this Zippo was 3-betting a fucking ton. He was way out of line with his 3-betting. He wasn't like doing it all the time, and whenever I saw him show it with hands, he looked decent. So he's either on a real hot run of cards, or more likely he was just going a bit over the top with his 3-betting, like in a bad reg style or bad aggressive regular style. So I elected to just call with a view to back raising if he 3-bet. He didn't, which disappointed me massively, but then our friend here bailed us out with a little click it back, which allowed us to just repot it. And then we got to this flop, super dry board, like SPR for me effectively of 2 point something against this guy and 1 point something against this guy. So I'm just going my hand at this point. If someone's got a random deuce, then good for them. If he bets, we're just going to raise. If he checks to us, we're just going to bet and not fold. That was me. That was my thought process, rightly or wrongly. He let out small, which made me a little bit nervous about raising because he might just have some random 2 there that he's just trapping with. But I ummed and ahed and just thought, fuck it, raise anyway. He called. Fortunately, LFC hadn't cooled us, but he had, and we got there. So yeah. Again, just I don't know, this is too much to be learned from that one. And it's just in there because it was one of the bigger pots that I played. This is a misclick pre. I wasn't paying attention because I think I just finished recording the previous hand. I think the last hand, I think it was. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. But anyway, I was distracted. I hadn't realised this guy had opened, and I made a really weird 3-bet here, which I obviously clearly wouldn't 3-bet with this hand normally. I just mashed the pot button. I thought it folded me on the button, and I presumed I was opening from the button. I hadn't seen it. When I seen the 290 going, I was like, oh shit. I wasn't too happy. But so what happens when you get distracted? You make mistakes. He calls. We flop gin, which is beautiful. He checks. We make a large bet. He calls. We still have the nuts on the turn. He just decides to randomly donk into us for pot. We jam. Right, super confident that we're just going to smash the fuck out of this pot. Either win it outright or we're free rolling him. He calls, and he turns up with a open ender and a shit flush draw, drawing completely dead, which is always nice. And we drag that one. I remember this one off the top of my head. I guess we'll soon see. We defended the Jack 7. I think that's a fine defend. I don't think we need to 3-bet that hand. I think it's too weak to 3-bet, too strong to fold. We flop trips. Check. he bets we call. Turn off flush draw to go with our trips, sorry. Yeah, this was a decision on the river against this guy. Given my read was he was pretty tightish. I wasn't sure I could bluff catch this river. Daft as it sounds, with like trips and what have you, but every time this guy had bombed the river, he'd just shown me not just shown me, he'd shown people the nuts constantly. He was one of these guys that just always seemed to have it when he was putting money in. Then he got called plenty, and he did have it. It wasn't just like he's betting a lot and making people fold. It wasn't that situation. It was just he was betting a lot when he was happy to check down all kinds of like marginal and even like reasonably strong stuff that wasn't nutted, and he just seemed to show up with the nuts constantly. And I wasn't sure what to do here. I wasn't sure should we just lead to prevent him from checking back with, I don't know, who knows what. I couldn't even think. Do we check call? But then I was thinking, this guy don't know what he can possibly turn up with. They might bluff. Maybe not flush draws, but if he's rivered his ace, then does he need to bluff? I just didn't know what to do. And did something that you guys will probably hate, because I checked. He bet pretty small. So we're getting like a really, really, really good price in that call here. But I'd paid him off in smallish pots a couple of times. I just didn't want to pay him off again. I think the aces shouldn't change too much unless he just double barreled two aces. I don't know, but I folded anyway, and I wasn't very happy with myself, but I didn't really know what to do, so that's why we did it. This is against a stud again. Which is the guy who was like pretty passive pre-flop, pretty aggressive post-flop. I'm not sure if we caught any hands later on with him. I think there's a few pots where he they didn't make the video because we got to like the river in $7 pots, and he'd bet like $7 and then I called, and the pots weren't really big enough to justify showing on here. But he was pretty aggro post-flop. You can just take my word for that. He calls, we flop the nuts. I check to him to allow him to bet. Maybe I don't know if I should just bet myself there. It just felt to me like we have got the nuts. We kind of, if hearts get there, then I'd rather just keep it as it is. I don't really want hearts to come. But with us having two hearts, it makes it less likely he's going to have a flush draw, etc., etc. So, and he could just dispute it. I could imagine him just like having who knows what, just like one pair here and betting away, or just some random nonsense. So I didn't want to raise just yet. I wanted to like wait for the next street to get a raising over like a much bigger bet. That was my plan. The 9 came. Obviously it means we don't have the nuts anymore. We lose to the 10-7 now. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't too concerned about that. We check. He then puts a bigger bet in. He bets like just about full pot. I spring my trap and go with the raise. He alarms me and goes all in, and by now I'm thinking, we could be in trouble here. I kind of just hoping he's got a set and a flush draw or something. That's what I was hoping, but he didn't. He had the straight, and we did not get there with the flush. These are the last two hands of the video. This guy just sat down, didn't know anything about him. He 3-bets us. Again, this is a hand that sometimes I would think about folding to a 3-bet. I mean, it's very connected. But that flush draw's not worth a pinch of shit, really. But because the stud came along, I elected to come along too. We flop trips. I'm just at this point hoping this guy's just got like 2 aces or something like that. And I kind of I want that bet to protect my hand. I'm not sure what donking strategies work in PLO, what don't. I'm not sure if you should have a donking strategy or not, but fuck it, I donked anyway. He raised. At this point I just thought, well, he's probably got 2 aces with a flush draw. Maybe he's got a 6, like 2 aces with a dangling 6, but primarily I was just thinking he has an overpair and a flush draw, and I was happy to call all my money off. He did have 2 aces with a flush draw, but unfortunately he had the fucking 6 with it, so we were in damn rough shape. And sadly we did not get there. And this is the very next hand coming up. And you just got a quick spoiler of what the result was there. He opens, we defend the queen 10 ace with the suit. We flop a flush draw. We check, he bets. I just call. I mean, it's just our hand's way too strong. I don't really want to raise. I mean, I guess I could raise there, but I don't really want to get it in with a flush draw, just a flush draw on a paired board. I mean, it's pretty unlucky if he's just flopped us dead with like 9s full or 6s full of 9s or quad 6s or whatever. But nevertheless, I try to sort of try and make my hand, which I did. I check, he bets again. I decide just to commit and go with the raise here to like obviously try and get paid by worse flushes. If he does have like a random 6, then maybe he calls off with it. He does call it off. Oh, he jams and we call it off. And we're pretty nicely ahead this time. He's just got 3 6s, so we've got him pretty much crushed. Not crushed, but he needs to hit one of 10, 7 or 8 on the river, which is precisely what he did. He shipped the pot to him, and I decided to call it a session. Now, there's been a lot of like big-ish losing pots in this session. It seems to be one of those sessions where I lost quite a lot of big pots, but I won lots of medium-sized pots. It ended up being like a negative, I'm not sure what it was exactly. Let me just pause while I go and check. It was a negative £46 session, or so what's that in euros maybe, and just over 2 buy-ins, maybe 55, 60 euros. So yeah, it wasn't a total disaster. These things are going to happen in PLO. It's kind of a shame that we lost 2 big pots right at the end, and we had some good situations with some fishy players. At one point we were quite nicely up. I think ended up like towards the end of the session. I think at one point we were maybe up by 1.5 to 2 buy-ins. We finished up down 2 buy-ins, so we ended up with a 4 buy-in downswing, probably all coming in the last half an hour or so of the session, not sure, which seemed to happen pretty quickly, which is disappointing. But fortunately, I realised that perhaps my mental game was about to crack slightly, and also on top of that, the games were breaking up too. I had 4 tables open, but there's only 15 players in the lobby, so it was easy enough just to say, you know what, let's just call it a night. Even though it's disappointing that we had some fishy players still at the tables, I felt like it was time to call it a night. It didn't work out for us, but never mind. I guess that's going to be the PLO story. So hope you've enjoyed that little session review, and we're back tomorrow with the vlog. Bye for now.